the most expensive purchase that anyone will make in their life is that of a home. And there are many questions that go into buying a home. And with interest rates at 11-year highs, inflation like we've never seen it before, and income that's struggling to keep up with that inflation, answering those questions accurately is more important than ever. Now, one of the most frequently asked questions is, at which point should I stop renting and buy a home for myself? And there are many reasons why someone should buy a home. But I want to look at it strictly from a financial perspective. If I wanted to maximize my net worth at the end of 30 years, at what point should I buy a home for myself? If that sounds good to you, let's get into it. Now, if in this new world of remote working, you're one of the lucky people that gets to choose which city they live in, there are two main factors you should consider when narrowing down those cities. The first is income growth, and the second is rental payment or mortgage payment growth. And then you compare the two. If income growth outpaces rental payments, that's a really good sign. That means that that community or city can service its own living expense. However, in some cities, this is simply not the case. Austin, for example, their income growth has been substantial, around 30% over the last 18 months. However, their rental payment increases has been 54%. So while at first glance, Austin looks like a very attractive place to buy, the truth is that the underlying housing market is not that healthy given the immense increase in rental payments and mortgage payments that they have seen. And the good news is that all of this data is easily accessible on Redfin, where you can filter by the zip code and check out what is the median household payment, what is the median household selling price from week to week or month to month. However, most people don't buy at a macro level of investment. They buy at a micro level of investment. And when you're buying at a micro level, you need to do some scenario analysis. So let's take a look at three scenarios. The first is a renter who's paying $1,100 in rent. That's the average mortgage payment of an American. The second scenario is a person who decides to buy a home for $400,000, which is the median sale price of a home in the US today. They put down 10% and they have an interest rate of 3%. And the third scenario is the exact same as the second scenario, but instead of having an interest rate of 3%, they're going to have an interest rate of 5%. Now, the factor we're going to look at across all of these scenarios is something I like to call throwaway money. And that's the money that you will never see again after you've spent it. For example, the person in scenario 1 is paying $1,100 of rent. Once they pay that money is never coming back to them. So 100% of that $1,100 is throwaway money. And then we look at scenario 2 and we see that with a $400,000 house, a 10% down payment and 3% interest, that payment will be about $1,500. Most people stop here and they say, see, it's more expensive to buy a home in this current conditions than it is to rent a home. However, they're simply looking at cash outflow, but that's not what they need to look at. They need to look at the throwaway money. A mortgage payment is broken up into two parts, the principal and the interest. The principal is home equity that you will get back once you sell the home, and hopefully that home appreciates. The interest is the true throwaway money, and that's the money that you give to the bank in order to say thank you for giving me a massive loan. And in this case, with a home price of $400,000, 10% down at 3% interest, your mortgage payment will be split into $900 of interest and $600 of principal. What that means is that you only have $900 of throwaway money as compared to the $1,100 of throwaway money you had in scenario 1. However, this completely flips on its head in scenario 3, where we jack up the interest rate from 3% to 5%. Now that total mortgage payment of $1,500 skyrockets to $1,900, and the interest is $1,500 while the principal is only $400. So in this case, not only is there more cash outflow, but also more throwaway money. And this is really important because 6 months ago in the US, you could secure an interest rate for 30 years at 2.675%. However, today, that interest rate is 5.5%. But I hope you're seeing the big picture here that cash outflow is not always a bad thing, so long as that cash is going into assets that will contribute to your net worth, such as a home. But before we move on, I have to give a shout out to today's sponsor of the video, the subscribe button. Did you know that every second 4 subscribe buttons go unsmashed? There are millions of subscribe buttons around the world looking to be clicked. In fact, I can tell from my analytics that only 6% of my viewers are actually subscribed. So be the change that you want to see in the world and click a subscribe button today. You can start with mine. Now, the scenarios we went through today are a simplified view of the picture that only compared rental payments to mortgage payments. But there are a variety of other factors you have to consider, such as HOA payments, taxes, and potential income from Airbnb if you decide to rent out a room in a home that you purchase. And for this reason, I made my own real estate model in Excel to help myself understand if a particular investment was a good one or a bad one. In that model, I can list off whether I want to rent out any rooms traditionally or via Airbnb. I can list off any of the expenses I have, from taxes to Airbnb fees to HOA and to maintenance, and then I can determine at the end of the month or the end of the year if this will lead to true cash flow or if I'm just breaking even. Then at the front, I've got a high-level dashboard that visually allows me to see these metrics and determine if it's a good investment for me. If you think that model might help you in your real estate decision making, you can follow me on Patreon, where you can get access to that model there. So buying a home when the numbers make sense, that is, when the throwaway cash for buying is less than the throwaway cash for renting, is still one of the best ways to generate wealth. In fact, if you watched my video on the science of becoming a millionaire, you'll recall that one of the best ways of generating wealth and one of the quickest ways that millionaires hit $1 million of net worth was by buying a home and paying it off early. So, if you have any questions, leave a comment and I will get back to you. Be sure to check out my Patreon if that real estate model will help you, and have a great day.